What's coming this week? So I think I'm going to start doing a video every week, every weekend, so Saturday or Sunday, just talking about what's coming, because we have the infrastructure bill that's been talked about. We have the child tax credit. We have potential stimulus checks. So we have things that are coming, and I want to do a flow chart where I can show you guys exactly what the politicians are talking about, what's going on in Congress, what the White House is talking about, as far as how far along are they. So that's what I'm going to start doing on the weekend. So I haven't decided if it's going to be Saturday or Sunday, but we're going to do this on a weekly basis so we can follow all this stuff. Because what happens, and we've seen this over time, you'll have politicians come up with something, come up with a proposal, come up with an idea, and that idea goes away and no one follows it. And it's gone. Once it goes away and people stop talking about it, politicians move on to the next thing. And so I want to be able to track this so you guys can see what's going on. And hopefully we can keep the discussion going. So politicians will, I don't know if they watch my channel. They probably don't. But at least we know, okay, yeah, you know what? Politicians, they were for this, but now they're not talking about it anymore. A good example, $15 an hour minimum wage. We're not hearing anything else about that. I talked about last year when they were really on the hazard pay. We don't hear anything about that. And so there are certain things, the raise for Social Security, $200 raise for Social Security. We're not hearing that anymore. So in order for us to see politicians move on some of these things, we have to keep that discussion going. So let me show you my flow chart here, and we'll go ahead and start talking about some of this stuff. So we have some updates here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the American Jobs Plan. Okay, so the American Jobs Plan, there's a revision. Okay, so we know there's a negotiation going on right now with the White House and Republicans, Senate Republicans. So Senate Republican Capito, she has a bill. It's $568 billion. Now we know the American Jobs Plan from the White House, $2.3 trillion. That's what they initially had in their bill. Okay, now they cut that bill, and they just cut it yesterday, and now we're looking at 1.7 trillion. Okay, so no longer are we looking at the American Jobs Plan at 2.3 trillion. It's now 1.7 trillion. And as soon as this proposal came out, guess what? Republicans said no. They don't like it. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it for them. It's too much. It's too expensive. And so that's dead on arrival. It's not going anywhere. So now they're going to have to get back to the drawing board and negotiate some more, I guess. But you see these numbers. I mean, we have 1.7 trillion and we have 568 billion. They're far apart. They're really far apart. Now, I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. The top line amount, that might seem important, but in reality, how to pay for it is more important. And they cannot come to an agreement on how to pay for this. The corporate tax rate increase, that's what the White House wants. Republicans are talking about user fees. That's what they want to focus on. So they want to focus on increasing the gas tax, increasing or having a mileage tax that we don't have right now. So that's what they're focused on. And then going back to the $1.9 trillion stimulus package and taking some money from there, some unspent money they want to take from there. So in all reality, they're not. If you can't figure out how to pay for it, it's not going to happen. I don't care how much it is. It could be $5. If you can't agree on how to pay for it, it's not going to happen. So that's what we're looking at right now. That's what we're looking at when it comes to this American Jobs Plan or this infrastructure bill. And so right now, I don't see any movement. I don't see it going anywhere. I think the fact that the White House did come out and with this $1.7 trillion offer and Republicans said no right away, I think the White House is figuring things out. They're figuring out that we're probably going to need to go on our own. And so there is a deadline. They've given a deadline of the 31st. Okay, so Memorial Day. So if Republicans have until that point to come up with a counteroffer, if they can't come up with something else that's doable for both sides, then Democrats are just going to have to move on their own, or they're going to be forced to move on their own. And so that's what we're looking at right now when it comes to the proposals that are out there. Now, we still have the American Families Plan, okay, $1.8 trillion. That's the human infrastructure. They want to do this as a separate bill, so we'll be talking about that more in the future. Now, Senator Coons, he had an $800 billion proposal, or he put that top line number there. And there has been some support for $800 billion, even up to $1 trillion when it comes to an infrastructure bill. We're talking about bipartisan support. So we'll have to see if maybe they'll come down. Maybe the White House will come down even more and Republicans will go up a little bit more, and maybe we'll see a $1 trillion infrastructure bill. But that's where we are when it comes to that. So if Republicans don't meet the deadline and Democrats are forced to move forward, then we're looking at June. So when we're looking in June, we see this first week. Now, what I've done here is you see this red line here. This means this is when the Senate is in session. When you see the blue line, that's when the House is in session. When you see the red and the blue line, both the House and the Senate are in session. So we see this first week here, recess. So they will not be in DC. So the first date that we can see them moving forward with this infrastructure bill, if they have to move on their own. So if Democrats have to move on their own, the first date that we can see that happen is when the Senate's in session on the 7th. Okay. And then most likely this would be an important a week here because you have both House and Senate in session for most of the week. And so that's what we're looking at. Now, the target date to get this first infrastructure bill done is July 4th. Okay, so that's what we're looking at when it comes to that. And as soon as they can get this infrastructure bill through, that's when you can start focusing on the American Families Plan, and that is the infrastructure bill. And that's where we can potentially see more happening, more programs for every American, as well as potentially a stimulus check, right? We just saw a letter go out from the House Ways and Means Committee asking the president to strongly consider, I don't know why these letters are going out, but I'm just telling you what the letter is saying, strongly consider stimulus checks and in extending the enhanced unemployment. Okay, so the 15th, this is an important date for the child tax credit. So we'll talk a little bit about the child tax credit now. So the 15th is the day that the IRS has indicated they will start sending out the child tax credit. So it's either $300 or $250, depending on how old your child is. And I have detailed information about that at the end of this video. There'll be a link so you can check that out. So on the 15th of every month is when they plan to send out the checks. And they're going to be sending them out electronically. They're also going to do debit cards, and they'll be sending out checks. So they're going to be doing it a variety of different ways. Obviously, they need to have your information in order to send the electronic payments. They will be opening up a portal so you can update your information if you need to do that. Or if you do not file taxes, you can update that information as well. So just something to look forward to. They plan to have, or they're going to have this out before July 15th so people can update their information. As soon as they put that information out, I will make sure to do a video on it. So make sure you subscribe, hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified. So you'll know if you need to update your information, you'll know when that's open. Okay, so another important date here, the 30th, September 30th. Now this is important because this is the fiscal year end. Okay, so that's when the new fiscal year will start on the 1st of October. And so that means that they're going to have a budget. They have to have a plan for the budget. And so that is another bill that's going to have to go through Congress. And a lot of times when that goes through Congress, they add some things to that. So that could potentially be, we could potentially see some more, maybe some more human infrastructure and stuff like that, maybe stimulus checks. You know, I'm just throwing all this stuff out here just so you guys have an idea of what's going on the timeline, right? These politicians are looking at the calendar. They know what's going on. They know when things need to happen. And so you might see politicians really pushing these different proposals around these times because they know this is a good time. Like the fiscal year end is a good time for us to really start talking about things because we can put a big package together. And there's some sense of urgency. And that's what politicians need. They need that urgency because they don't move unless there's a deadline. And so when you put a deadline on the table and it's a potential of having a government shutdown if we can't agree on a budget, well, that's when you want to put some different things in there in the hopes that you can get all those things passed at the same time. All right, so that's what we're looking at when it comes to the calendar. And every week we're going to be doing this. So I'm going to say every Saturday from now. So every Saturday we're going to take a look at the calendar. We'll look at what's coming in the week to come. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, post them down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.